You look lonely. I can fix that. Lonely. You look. I can fix. You look. I.
How much of your day do you waste on your phone? Let's throw out a conservative number, say 4 hours a day, occupied by non-essential, entertainment-driven, superfluous time wasting. Now, take those 4 hours and extrapolate to account for a whole year. That's 1,456 hours. The most direct way to value the wasted time is to apply an hourly rate because you could have spent that time working. In this example, assuming you make $15 an hour, that amounts to $21,840. Ask yourself if those daily hours spent mindlessly scrolling on TikTok or watching Instagram stories you'll forget about in an hour are more valuable to you than an additional $20K in your pocket. And that's just for 4 hours a day. Increase that number to 6 hours on your phone or computer, and you've just pocketed over 32 grand. But you might think, oh, my scenario is unique. What I'm doing really isn't that bad. Or worst of all, I deserve to spend my time like this. The reality is, your scenario's not that unique, and it most likely is that bad. Humanity is collectively brainwashing itself to believe that satisfaction can only be found through being connected online. As the content we consume grows more saturated and stimulating, the world around us appears increasingly bleak. Our lives are being sucked from us every day, and we hardly bat an eye. Our brains are being rewired to thrive off the dopamine hits we receive with every like, every new video, every attractive woman, every new post. Young people don't read anymore. More than that, they can't read. Words, yeah, of course, but the act of sitting with nothing but a story on a page and knowledge to gain is insufferably boring to the majority of people. The hyper-stimulating, colorful bombardment of content and information is so easily attainable through nearly every avenue in which we function in our day-to-day. The physical lives we live are becoming eerily inseparable from the global lifeline pumping out artificial pleasure that is the internet and, more specifically, social media. This is not how humanity was meant to live. Try and look at the life you are living from an outsider's perspective. Observe your routines, your behaviors, the way you utilize the most valuable resource you have, your time. Are you pleased with it? Your brain will immediately call to mind the things you know you need to change. So change them. Try to live one day as you know you ought to live it and see if you recognize a difference. As a society, we're far too quick to accept the way things are or will be. We fail to question the impact these norms are having on our lives. We're blind to the fact that we can and should change these harmful behaviors and challenge these norms. It will require you to be different, to stand out, something so many people seek to actively avoid. Our desires to be accepted and to blend in with a crowd for maximum safety from ridicule. Maybe for some of you that means deleting your social media accounts. For others it may be quitting porn, which is easier said than done. Actively seek to make change in your life that will force you to rely on the healthy sources of dopamine. It'll be boring at first and the process will be tedious, but just as with lifting weights, nothing that's worthwhile is ever easy. A life of satisfaction, fulfillment, and purpose lies within reach, but you're just too afraid or too blind to grab it for yourself. Somehow I feel that we as people have convinced ourselves that this is just how life is, but it doesn't have to be this way. But what if we never reach out? What will happen if society stays on this trajectory of fiending for artificial satisfaction through social media, porn, and other hollow dopamine stimulants? In Denis Villeneuve's film Blade Runner 2049, the character Joy provides a discreet warning of the impending future humanity will stumble into if we don't recognize the self-destruction fueled by counterfeit emotion and immediate gratification. A loving housewife has dinner ready for you when you get back from a hard day at work. She's beautiful, kind, and unwaveringly genuine. She loves you despite your flaws and shortcomings. She can see past them to who you really are on the inside. With words of affirmation, she lifts your laden spirits, and her presence consoles your loneliness. She actively listens to you and lights up the room wherever she goes. Hers will be the only smile you see that day, and with her you feel safe. And she truly is beautiful. So who is this marvel of a woman, the girl of every man's dreams? Well, she's a product. She isn't real, and she never will be. The complexity of life has been substituted for machined hardware and lines of code. Intelligent, sure, yet nothing but a hologram. You've long since given up the desire to embrace this ray of light you call a girl because your arms simply pass right through her. The intimacy that successful relationships thrive off is nowhere to be found. It's impossible. Sex has become a commodity rather than a representation of sincere love between two people. Despite her best efforts, you must cook every meal because her preparation was just an intricate show for the eyes. You'll never hold her hand on an after-dinner walk, or kiss her goodbye before a long journey, or watch her open a present on Christmas morning, and her warmth won't be beside you when you retire for the night. She's not real. But her words are. Her voice lingers in the air, a sweet sound to your ear. Well, of course it is. She says exactly what you need to hear. She's anything and everything that you need her to be, except physical. The bond you share should never have replaced the true love shared between a man and a woman, but it did, and it will. True love comes with sincerity, turmoil, excitement, feelings that ebb and flow, difficulty and pain. But it's as C.S. Lewis said in his book Out of the Silent Planet. I do not think the forest would be so bright, nor the water so warm, nor love so sweet, if there were no danger in the lakes. It's because of the hardship that makes a true relationship all the more lovely. The opportunity to make mistakes and extend forgiveness strengthens the bond deeper than an outwardly flawless relationship ever could. When someone is told everything they want to hear, there'll never be growth in individual character. Precious metals can never be flawless if not first refined through fire. Officer K, or Joe, represents humanity in this analogy, and Joy represents the embodied projection of the artificial dopamine stimulators of today. Joe is every man in society, and by that I mean he's a nobody, which makes him substitutable for just about anyone. From this perspective, we can understand how pervasive this issue will and already has become. Throughout the film, the thought of Joy being a negative influence in Joe's life hardly ever crosses the viewer's mind. She is, in almost every way except physical, characterized as human. Surely she couldn't be causing any real damage. As Joy pertains to the greater plot, I would agree the answer is no. But when we observe Joe's personality and demeanor, it becomes apparent how the lack of genuine human relationship and its supplementation by artificial satisfaction has taken a significant toll. Joe's demeanor should not be entirely attributed to this relational element, of course. His career and the city he lives in no doubt play a significant role. However, in real life, we observe the implications of disingenuous relations every day. Through a rise in parasocial relationships, OnlyFans, idolizing celebrities, etc., young people are becoming more depressed, less satisfied, anxious, lonely, and indifferent. Joe has opted for the route of artificiality through Joy, which breeds these emotions, and we can see how this decision influences the man he has become. One scene that I feel is very telling of Joe's desire for human connection is when he invites the girl from the street into his apartment. We see the great lengths that are taken to orchestrate an intimate interaction, and in the end, the emptiness remains. This was it, right? She was a real girl at last. Why didn't it satisfy? Joe's life has been a constant receptor of dopamine through pornographic images on the street, bright lights, content, and hollow fulfillment. When the opportunity for something real comes along, his dopamine tolerance is already so elevated that what's real can no longer come close to superseding the artificial, irregardless of whether she has a physical body. When every minute detail can be manipulated to satisfy man's desires, the physical world no longer appeals. This is a terrifying reality. His trust gets betrayed, and he likely questions why he even bothered making an effort for something real. Joy would never have done that. Joe could trust Joy. Joy can be taken anywhere, a constant presence of affirmation in a dark world, until suddenly, without warning, she's destroyed, stomped into the dust. In an instant, this constant beam of light in Joe's life is stripped from him. His sole reliance on her has now left him completely isolated and alone. The dystopian future of Blade Runner may not be so distant as we readily assure ourselves. Technological corporations thrive on holding your attention captive and do everything in their power to prevent people from unplugging. Our society lives and breathes on dopamine hits throughout the day and will do anything for validation. We feel like we deserve it. This lifestyle perpetuates a downward spiral of inner hatred and an inability to effectively interact with other people. The harmful impacts of this are vast and well documented. Men are taking less responsibility in their lives, their dopamine levels are lower, and they're encouraged by our society to be more feminine. The exact opposite is what needs to be true for young men. We must be strong and masculine, responsible, well-spoken, convinced of ourselves, confident, and upright. But what we see instead are young guys simping over Instagram models and paying for OnlyFans instead of actually talking to girls. We're training men how to be weaker while growing ever closer to a society completely devoid of emotion and sincere interaction. Soon enough, men won't even need to talk to real girls. The far easier way would be just to pay for some artificial girl to have with you whenever you feel like it. She'll tell you all the things you want to hear, and she'll never push you to be better because you're perfect just the way you are. Thus allowing the delusion to continue that we aren't actually that bad. Others are really much worse. A society blindly driven by lust without inward accountability for their actions is destined to collapse. When the world fails to foster genuine relations between men and women, and all that's left is twisted, artificial, man-made replicas of God's perfect design, how can humanity be expected to prosper?